Hey everyone, welcome to our latest Traded Black podcast. Happy Sunday evening. I'm your host, Shad Dales. Thanks for checking in on tonight's podcast. We're going to dive in deep to some of the companies that announced their earnings this week that we did not have on for an interview. They include Ascend Wellness, Planet 13, Village Farms. Any feedback, any questions that you guys have, let us know, and we'll dive into that right now. As well, there's some rumors circulating in Washington right now involving Senator Cory Booker having a conversation getting into an elevator. An elevator? Well, let's find out if there's any credibility to that. Welcome in TDR co-host Anthony Varell, along with Guap. These rumors are nothing short of interesting.
I was going to say bullshit, but we can roll with interesting.
Interesting. Yeah, like an elevator pitch. Guap, what was your reaction when you heard this?
Well, yeah, let's get into the headlines. But yeah, I'd say, it's Sunday. Lean back, relax, and let us take you all the way up to make all the Fat Joe references in one. Yeah, you want to dive into these earnings?
I'll go into earnings first. We will get into that topic a little bit later. But as Anthony said, I say interesting. He says bullshit. And I think probably bullshit has a little bit more accurate term or guess towards something like that. But we will dive into that. As I said, this is Into the Wire, TDR, Traded Black podcast. We had a lot of people on this week, and we're actually going to be having Charlie Backtill on tomorrow from Cresco Labs, followed by Raj Grover from High Tide on Tuesday.
Whoa.
So the lineup just doesn't end, but some great conversations we had this week with the cannabis to clear up some of the air there. Terracin, strong performance. Juicy, great conversation. Love the conversation with Trent Woloveck, who understands a lot of stuff going on in Washington right now, and a few others. But for some of the companies that we did not have on, they included Ascend Wellness, Village Farms, and Planet 13. So Guap, off the top, regards to some of these earnings with these companies this week, what are a few things that really stood out to you when you came across their latest reports?
Yeah, overall takeaways, right? Something to keep in mind is, just for my own portfolio, I'm trying to spread it out. I'm not going all in on one. So it's funny because it's almost like I don't care who wins, right? I just want the whole sector to win. I really believe, not Anthony, he's picking winners, but that's my approach, right? But yeah, so what I like to see overall is you've got a year of operational efficiency leading to free cash flow for more than just Green Thumb. You're starting to see other companies report free cash flow. That's really good to see. They're able to reinvest that money in all sorts of different ways, which we slice and dice in these interviews. So for me, that's the big one. And the other big takeaway is the 280E tax strategy story. It kicked off with TrueLeave. Every single earnings call has featured 1 to 2 questions about what they're going to do. We're starting to get some news out of some companies that are filing returns going back to 2020 to get that 280E money back and into their coffers. It's yet to be seen if that strategy pays off in the long run. There's some legal arguments that are pretty solid that they might get the IRS to come to the table and talk.
Yeah.
But as more of these companies do it, I think the stronger the argument and the more likely that conversation happens. So that, to me, are the big takeaways. And I'm willing to dive into VFF after Anthony gives us a few.
Well, I one of the things I wanted to touch on too is just like this whole topic of conversation regarding TrueLeave and the IRS and 280E. I want to make it clear that people think that are these companies going to have to actually pay that 280E in tax? And very much they're going to have to. And I think there's a lot of misconception around there. But I know there's a few things that you actually touched on or mentioned about that on Twitter over the past week and a half. But when it comes to the IRS, you do not want to screw around with these people, right, Anthony?
No, I mean, it's a slippery slope. Do I agree with some of the MSOs' tone and I guess voice towards tackling the tax issues? No, not really. Do I also think that it's justified for them pushing back as it relates to 280E being an onerous weight on the businesses? Absolutely. So I'm all for it. I just think it needs to be a tread with caution and tread lightly. Kim got the money back. That's fantastic. We've seen other companies that are going along the lines of a analogous strategy. That's great. I hope they get the cash back. I hope they get a capital infusion via these refunds, and they use it to either pay down debt, throw it to OpEx, or throw it to CapEx. Make good use of it. But I mean, there is a point in time where the government could reverse what they're doing, and they could ask for that money back.
Yep.
Or they could imply, penalties on the taxes that haven't been paid. Not saying that that's going to happen. It very well might not. But at the same time, like, these are things that need to be planned for. I mean, I know that there were some companies that had a lot of questions around their tax strategies as of recent. But I mean, it's yet to be determined. I mean, the only one that actually has a sound one with some sort of prize, we'll call it, is the tax return that Trulieve successfully got issued.
Yeah.
And reported on this quarter.
Well, if rescheduling were to happen and 280E were to go away, there's 100%, I believe, will be penalties if people are not paying their taxes. The government's going to want their money, and they will get their money eventually.
Nothing's 100%. We'll see.
I mean, nothing's 100%. But I mean, from my understanding, I would be willing to bet my ass that Trulieve had a pretty sound legal argument to take back $100 million,
100%
in tax revenue paid.
Could be a lot of it's because of its medical cannabis.
Correct.
That's a strong legal argument.
It gets into semantics around the medical business. It gets around the just 280E is really not applicable when you're talking about state stuff. There's a bunch. There's a lot more out of my purview that goes into this than what's being said on a top line perspective. That's why, if you've noticed on the earnings calls, I haven't really been digging into tax strategies or the tax conversation with any of the CEOs. I mean, it's leaps and bounds above my pay grade. And I mean, it's something that I hope that they utilize, but I mean, I don't think it's anything that we need to have as a focal point of the story moving forward.
To be continued.
Yeah, and I think that's why there's only one Trulieve company in this industry, right?
Yeah.
Village Farms Planet 13. We can get into that briefly if you want. Just to quickly top line, I did find out actually earlier this week that Planet 13, that really cool consumption lounge that you actually got to walk through with Anthony back at MJ Biz, late November, early December. April 5th is when they're launching that baby. So they've asked us. They asked us, there's going to be a bunch of influencers out there that day. They've asked us to head out there. So we're going to try and make it. Got a busy schedule coming up in April, Washington, and then later on in Florida at the latest Benzinga Cannabis Capital Conference. But before
if you twisted my arm, I'd go.
Yeah, I know, right? Before we jump into our next header, which is that elevator rumor, real quick, Village Farms, Planet 13, what were some key takeaways, Guap?
Sure. Well, I'm definitely prepared to talk Village Farms a little bit. I mean, they missed expectations. Top line was higher at 74 million than the estimated 69.7. Adjusted EBITDA was estimated to be 2.85. It came in negative 700. Gross margins came in at 14.8% instead of an estimated 22%. So top line was a beat. And the rest that I mentioned were misses. The good news here, I think, is that the Canadian market, at least from all what I can tell, Village Farms is a solid team, right? It doesn't seem to have the same types of issues, perhaps, as some of the other Canadian LPs. I don't want to get into specifics there, but it looks like they're doing it the right way, and they're doing the best they can, right? And if there's ever a company that is just set up for interstate commerce, it's them. I mean, they've got a huge operation in Texas and in Mexico that no one is ballparking when that's going to happen. But if they can hang on until that day, they are pretty well positioned. Also, I covered this on a previous podcast, but Canada's really taken a hard look at lowering the excise tax to 10%. And that news could drop, and that is definitely going to help out a company like Village Farms. So could be a better year for them here in 24.
Well, they've highlighted aggressively expanding its presence in Germany and the UK as well. The company expects to maintain gross margins in the 30 to 40% range. Positive gross margin was reported for the fresh produce division for the second consecutive quarter. So, in addition to cannabis, as many know this story, they're deep into the produce industry
Tomatoes.
with their
Tomatoes. I buy their tomatoes at Publix.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
2 to 3 facilities, around 5 million square feet in Texas. So, if and when we start to see Texas, man, 30 million people and only 3 licenses in that
We'll
state.
be covering that in a couple of years if Texas comes online. Village Farms is set up.
So Consortium has one of those licenses.
Yeah, they do. All right, producer,
but they have it.
We got to move on.
This TDR Traded Black podcast Sunday night version. Shad Dales here with Anthony Varell and Guap. Happy Sunday evening. And let's go on to our next National Enquirer headline. Rumor from Washington. It involves a man walking down a hallway, running into Cory Booker, who then got into an elevator and said, "You're warm," as far as rescheduling being around 4:20. Do we have any name who this was, Guap?
We do.
Who's claiming this? Who is it?
Yeah, it's a veteran congressional reporter for Wired, Vice, Rolling Stone. It's Matt Laszlo on his website and blog, posted the actual audio. So you can believe me, the link is on Twitter. You can find it.
Okay.
I believe it's askapol.com. And he posted the transcript, which ripped through Twitter almost immediately and may have a lot to do with the rather positive price action we saw on Friday. So that's
By the way,
wild,
the time
right?
of this recording,
speed moves markets. Wall Street Journal sends it down. A conversation had in front of an elevator moves them back up again. This is wild stuff. It's an interesting conversation. You can hear it for yourself. You can read the transcript. But essentially, if I can summarize, I don't think we have the tweet here prepared. Essentially, he's asking, are you hearing anything about the DEA? Senator Booker responds, yeah, I'm hearing a lot about it. And Matt Laszlo says, hey, I'm hearing April 15th. And all Cory Booker does is sort of laugh knowingly and walk onto the elevator. And Laszlo says, hey, am I getting warm? And he confirmed he's getting warm. So, look, we've had imminent Adam Stroyer. We've had all sorts of sources from the DA for a very tight-lipped secret operation. There's certainly a lot of people who seem to claim to know what's going to happen and when.
But a politician could tell you straight. A politician could tell you straight to your face the day and the time that it's going to be announced, and
he doesn't know either.
I'm going to make it my mission to find Cory Booker when we're in Washington on April 10th. I was just going to say and get a firsthand account from the horse's mouth. Right. I'm not going to do anything else while we're there.
Except for
find Cory Booker.
And Mitch, you're listening in the background. We turn the camera on and we film this. And if he doesn't allow it to be filmed, then there's your answer.
We're still getting kicked out of DC. I'm just calling it right now. We will be kicked out of DC imminently, shortly, soon.
Unless you change your name to Fat Joe.
Then you're open,
wide
open arms.
Mr. Joe.
Mr. Joe. All right, into the wire. Headlining all the biggest headlines in cannabis for the week. I'm your host, Shad Dales, along with Guap and Anthony Varell here on the Trade to Black Sunday night version. By the way, by the time of this podcast being recorded, it's midday Monday. So if there's any price action that we missed between 12:30 on Friday to 4 o'clock, just letting you know now at the time of this recording. Let's now switch to President Joe Biden's administration top health official, Secretary Xavier Becerra, from the HHS, is defending his stance on the recommendation to reschedule cannabis, which is very encouraging, I believe, knowing there's some Republican senators that are criticizing it. Anthony, what's the latest here?
So his exact quote was, what we're doing is simply reflecting what the science is showing. I would say that's the secretary passed the vibe check. He's standing with the work that he put forward. He's obviously not gun shy at standing next to what he did. And I mean, this was great. I think this is more positive than the Kamala roundtable, than Cory Booker, then whatever. You've got the guy that we need sitting there, standing in front of a testimony saying, look, guys,
I agree.
This is what I gave you. There is science to back this up. Here is our recommendations. Our recommendations stand. I stand by that recommendation. This was for me, this is the biggest headline from last week.
Yeah. Do we know who the senator?
Yeah, John Cornyn. I think he's a Republican senator from Texas.
How old is he? Oh,
He's
old.
He's in the Biden-Trump camp. He's a geriatric. He's probably boys with Pete Sessions, if I had to guess. He probably signed the letter.
He probably pronounces it marijuana.
Yeah, that was with Pete Sessions. He didn't really have anything. He didn't have anything educated or informed to say as it relates to his argument that he was trying to make with Secretary Becerra.
Marijuana. That is
Becerra.
Becerra. It is Becerra, isn't it?
Becerra. Is it Becerra or Becerra?
No, it's Becerra. This is becoming like a Maramed thing now.
If I could get a Becerra jersey, I would.
I actually knew that was Becerra. I butchered that.
It's all right.
Yeah, you fucked me up.
I'm sorry. It's Becerra. For sure, it's Becerra.
It's the Himalayas. Trust me.
All right, gents. Don't forget, people, to smash that like button. Hope you're liking our humor here this evening on a Sunday evening. As well, feel free to leave a comment below. As we said before, and we always say, more comments, more likes makes this video have a greater chance of going viral. And we want cannabis to go viral, especially the investment community, as we inch closer to the spring and possible rescheduling. That concludes. Now it's on to segment number 2 with Dan the Chart Man. Cue the music, Mitch.
Woo.
Good day, sir. How are things? Good to see you.
Things are great. Glad to be here.
Good to see. Well, it's good to see you as usual. We made it very clear just before you got on that at the time of this recording, it is Friday at 12:30, which we're posting on Sunday night. So any charts and any information we're sharing, we're obviously going to miss from 12:30 to 4 o'clock, but just being transparent with our audience. But good to see you, Dan. And let's bring up some charts as we jump back in, and why not, the crypto space with obviously Bitcoin, which has made a short-term shift this week.
Yeah, there's a little bit of profit taking going on. And again, whenever you see a weekly chart that is straight up and, to the tune of 90 whatever percent, you got to chill out and pull back at some point. And so there's a bit of a bearish candle forming on the weekly chart right now. And what was key for me is, on the 4-hour time frame, we kept having these little flushes, but every one was a higher low. And the most recent one yesterday broke that higher low pattern. And so bears were able to get a little bit of follow through. And, again, it's expected. You have to anticipate that if you're going to go straight up 90%, there will be pullbacks of 20% plus along the way. Yeah. And so we're just watching if this is going to shape up. And a lot of it has to do with, in my opinion, the pullback we're seeing in the NASDAQ and the broader stock market. There's definitely a bit of a profit-taking mindset recently. And, one thing I look for in the broader stock market is anytime, the bulls have been so good at rotation. Tech pulls back, financials go up, and it's just been this bullish rotation game. And what happens when XLF, the financial sector, QQQ, which for me is semiconductors and big tech, and then XLV, healthcare, if they're all dropping at the same time, that sends a flashing light in my brain. Money's leaving the market. And that hasn't happened in like over a month. And it happened yesterday. And now we're seeing bear follow through today. And so, just looking at the NASDAQ on the daily chart, we're just seeing, a key support zone being tested, and we're rolling over a little bit. And that's definitely something to do with the weakness that Bitcoin is seeing in the short term. But again, big picture, no red flags at this point.
Goes to show the times that we're in now and how much influence Bitcoin has, right?
Yeah, there's definitely overlap. It's sentiment. If you're really bullish in one spot, then you're willing to throw money around elsewhere. If you're tightening up a little bit, you're tightening up elsewhere.
We were all celebrating when it blasted through 68. It comes down a little bit to 68, and you can't get too sad.
No, I don't think there's too much crying involved. Let's keep on the crypto train and Ethereum. What are you seeing, and what's it touched around right now?
So we topped out around 4,000, and again, same thing, just rolling over a little bit. Larger of a pullback, hitting a weekly. Again, still not officially starting the weekly consolidation, but closer to doing so. And the key for me continues to be the ETH BTC chart, because if we are not breaking this weekly level, then Bitcoin is the spot to be as a bull and not ETH. And when this level breaks, it will be significant for us. And you remember when I came on here a couple months ago and I said TCNNF divided by MSOS, when this level breaks, it's going to be, a notable shift. And from that point forward, it's been all bulls for TrueLeave. And it's the same concept. It's the same concept. It's measuring one thing against a benchmark. And if it shows relative strength and breaks a key period of relative strength, then it means pay attention. And so for me on ETH BTC, if I'm going to really focus and believe these Ethereum bulls are the better place to be than Bitcoin, this double top must break.
That's interesting. Duly noted on that one, right, Anthony?
Yeah, I mean, Ethereum had a straight, the last chart that Dan was showing, Ethereum had a straight march from 2 to 4, 2K to 4K, pretty aggressively.
Huh.
I mean, I'm not surprised it's cooling off. Yeah.
So pay attention to Ethereum. All right, let's switch now to cannabis. First up, biggest player, obviously the ETF from Advisor Shares and MSOs.
So we got the big pop, like you mentioned today, and it is due to, social media and sharing all of this. And the big question is, we get, again, it's noon right now, the end of the day, the last hour, we get a big influx of volume and volatility. And, we could close 8:55 or we could close 8:15. And that's going to significantly dictate momentum when we head into next week. But, the pattern has been pop and fade. When the words are the reason for the pop, bears are confident jumping on it to short it. And so right now, we're tightening up after all that volatility. This is the 15-minute chart. It's just a lot of sideways right now. And so again, we know volatility is coming at the end of the day today, and we'll see which way it ends up going. But definitely a nice win for the bulls in the short term. I don't love, trend lines being my guide, but if we were to top out here, I'd be keeping an eye on that downtrend line. And really what it boils down to is after we top out, we've got to confirm a daily uptrend to show sustained buying and follow through.
So 8:15 or 8:55 will give you a pretty clear indication as what to anticipate heading into early parts on Monday, correct?
Yeah, I mean, if we close near the low, we're going to look for daily consolidation to try and form a higher low. Yeah. If we close near the high, then bulls still have some solid momentum. It's high volume, we know that much.
Yeah. Okay, sticking with cannabis, let's now switch to Canopy Growth.
Canopy. I haven't looked at this one in a while. So I've been saying the same thing for months on this one. And it's just, if we can't confirm a daily uptrend, the bulls don't prove anything. And just every single bounce is a bear flag. Just weak bounce, lower high, lower high, lower high. So the simple statement is absolutely nothing changes if 317 is resistance. And if you break that level, you can say, okay, the bulls are doing something for the first time in 6 weeks, and maybe things are shifting a little bit. But if you don't break 317, which at this point is 8% away still, then nothing changes. And Tilray was the same thing. It's the same slow bleed chart. You've got to break those lower highs or not. It's just as clear a pattern as you can have. Just every time the bulls do something, it's less than they did last time, and that has to change.
Sticking on the Canadian cannabis landscape, let's switch now to SNDL.
SNDL. So holding on a little bit better. It's still got that fade kind of action, but at least there's a support level that the bulls are attempting to defend, 130, 131. And you go back all the way here to October, and you can see like this level keeps coming into play. So this is the support level that the bulls really want to maintain. And we came very close yesterday to breaking it. We're now seeing a nice bounce again. So bulls are playing defense, but if they're going to go on offense, breaking 140 would be the start there. Again, that's the highest price we've seen in over a week. That's where we topped out on the last bounce attempt. You've got to break the lower highs.
Yeah. Any stock or company that either one of you guys want to bring up or ask?
I'll defer to Guap on that.
Oh, I'm not into specific tickers that much.
Well, let's bring up.
We're sticking with
Here's a good name. Here's a good name from last week. From last week, Cybin. CYBN.
So we've got two positive trial releases here. One from MindMed and the other from Cybin here. And the big difference between the two is number one, the size of the dilution that was announced with the positive trial results. And again, I like that the companies are putting out good news and bad news at the same time, rather than good news and then slamming you a week later with the dilution news. But there was also a little bit of front running here. And, I think people knew it was coming. And the reason I say that is in the charts and just the fact that Cybin from Thursday to Tuesday here was going up and the entire sector was dropping. It was going completely inverse to everything else. And then the news comes out and you see a big gap up open. And that tells me, okay, like someone was front running this news and, big gap up and dilution news that was more significant in terms of percentage wise than MindMed. Don't be surprised if there's a good bit of profit taking here. And so now we're just trading sideways. These are inside bars and we're just waiting for these inside bars to break one way or the other to let us know, if we're going to head back to the recent highs or if the top is in for now. But again, a little bit more profit taking than compared to MindMed. Let's just pull MindMed up. So this is what you want to see in terms of, you have the pop, you have the profit taking. That's not surprising. If you're going to go up almost 100% in a day, you're going to get profit taking. But it's a recover. And this chart reminds me of TrueLeaf's weekly chart where you get the breakout, the pullback, and you tighten up. And bulls want to hold EMA 12, and you pull up TrueLeaf's weekly, and you get the breakout, the pullback. You want to hold EMA 12. You're tightening up. This is healthy sideways consolidation. Lose EMA 12, close below it, things shift. But if you keep holding it, you're just, you're sorting through the significant volatility that just happened, and demand continues to exceed supply if you can keep doing that. So both MindMed and TrueLeaf on different time frames, one's the weekly, one's the daily, but they're very similar patterns after that volatility.
Okay.
So you like MindMed then?
I still got a runner position. I've been in this one for a long time. Small position because of how volatile it is. But, I traded it somewhere back in the 2-3 zone, and I just left a runner and said, maybe this is a long-term bottom, and just, lucked out with the news and all that. And I was trading this volatility fairly actively and just sticking with my runner position at the moment. And we'll see if bulls can make me confident enough to increase. I love averaging up. If I'm averaging up, it means my trade is working. I've got a profit cushion. People, it's psychology of newer traders and investors where they think I'm down. I need to, double down here and drop my cost basis, but it's much better to be averaging up than averaging down, in my opinion.
Yeah. Last company I want to bring up.
Learn that the hard way.
Last company I want to bring up too. They had some downward pressure on their stock this week, but the cannabis company holdings and what that chart looks like.
Is that CBST?
CBST, yes.
Yeah. I mean, it's again just slow bleed. And anytime I see a chart that's a penny stock that looks like this, my first mindset, I know nothing about these fundamentals, but my first question is what's dilution? What's convertible debt like? What's going on there? Because this to be underperforming everything else in the sector, this significantly, something's up. And, you can make all the excuses you want, but something's up. And there's clearly more selling than buying going on. And again, you just compare it to something like TrueLeaf or something that has relative strength. And it's so much more forgiving to be a bull in something that has relative strength than to be a bull in something that has relative weakness.
Yeah, makes sense. Listen, appreciate the check-in. This has been very informative as usual. For people to find you, your YouTube channel is
Chart Guys. I'm going to be putting out an in-depth check-in video this weekend talking about both sectors, and looking forward to it. I'm pumped.
Yeah. So by the time this video actually is posted Sunday evening, it'll already be on your YouTube channel, correct?
Yes, sir.
Awesome. Well, listen, appreciate it. And as far as following you on Twitter at Chart Guys, and as usual, always a big pleasure checking in with you every Friday. Very informative and great direction as we lead into next week. And we pretty much know where we sit with MSOs as far as where it's going to close on Friday and what you can anticipate going into early next week. So appreciate the feedback and updates, Dan.
Absolutely. See you next time.
All right. Thank you, sir. Always helpful, is he not?
Yeah, it was informative. Always an informative section of the podcast.
Ethereum. Interesting.
Speaking of informative,
it's time. Cue the music, Mitch. Darn, forgot my sunglasses up. We got to put them into the middle of the screen. There he is. It's time for the highlight of the week. Nice drop.
look at this.
Ooh. Over to you, Guap.
All right, Guap, cannabinoid investigator reporting.
Are you in an elevator? Are you in an elevator?
Metaphorically.
Okay.
So, yeah, I'm. This is Dr. Guap dropping science once again. We talked about why is the Blue Ridge Mountain blue. This is falling into a similar category. Inspired by the hemp ban or hemp endorsement, depending on how you look at it, in Florida, They banned a variety of cannabinoids. Largely, I was on board. They allowed 5 milligram hemp-derived beverages to continue while banning things like THCP and THC0 in high doses. I'm all for that. But in my opinion, they threw out the baby with the bathwater in THCV. And I wanted to talk a little bit more about THCV because I think there's been some talk in cannabis circles about it. But to me, it's one of the more interesting cannabinoids.
Okay.
Because it has a specific reputation. And I dug into some studies about THCV. More studies are needed. Let's just start there, right? One was done on animals in 2020, and another one was done on, it was a double-blind placebo study, so that's legit, in 2016, done on humans. So these are early results, and we need stuff like rescheduling to open up research on these types of cannabinoids, because essentially, if I'm going to keep this short and sum up the two studies, it's got we've heard of like people going through chemotherapy needing appetite stimulation and using cannabis for that. In any state that's medical, that's an approved thing. THCV is reported to have the opposite effect, so appetite suppression, as well as that helps out with energy levels as well. So if you needed a little boost of energy to exercise and then keep your portion controls lower.
So could this be a weight loss pill? Like, not a pill.
So what you're saying is THCV is the next Ozempic.
Right. Like, so pharma, right. Pharma has had it. There's been some, let's say some less than reputable weight loss drugs over the years. Some essentially methamphetamines. Hydroxycut. Yeah, there were all sorts of like that. Ozempic is in the news now. I haven't read a whole lot about it. I just figure you should just get some sun, eat right, and hike more. But for people who really need something, I've heard that, and some surgery options work for them, and going keto or that kind of thing. But yeah, THCV I feel like is underappreciated, and got thrown out in Florida. More studies needed. Anything that's going to help boost energy, suppress appetite, and isn't psychoactive could have some real. That's a kicker. You could make I could see some companies, both pharma and cannabis companies, making some real money on this, because it's not like regular cannabis at all.
Well, appreciate the feedback. And it'll be interesting to see how this progresses and gains some momentum. But if it suppresses appetite, you could see the attractiveness towards it. Now it's just a matter of marketing it the right way, if indeed.
And it's non-psychoactive. That's the biggest kicker.
Wow.
There's a lot of products, and I've tried one that had like 5 milligrams of THC and 20 THCV. For instance, it's also pretty expensive to buy THCV distillate at this point. So,
how expensive?
I couldn't tell you the exact per liter or anything like that, but more than Delta 9 distillate by a lot.
Well, growth of the industry. I love hearing stories like this. This has
could surprise people long run.
This has been Mic Drop with Guap every Friday on TDR Trade to Black podcast. Well, this was actually posted on Sunday night. So this is actually Sunday night. All right, gents, don't forget as well, everybody out there, don't forget to smash that like button. Leave some comments below. Always love your feedback. Anything we missed this week, let us know. Going into next week, as I said, Charlie Backdill from Cresco, he's on tomorrow, as well as Raj Grover from High Tide. TDR newsletter, baked in newsletter. Please subscribe. We got all kinds of information launching this week, including our own cannabis index. We've got operators. We've got pharma companies. We've got REIT companies. We've got everything sectioned off to compare all the different companies within the space with over 40 different KPIs. How do you get that information? Log on to thedalesreport.com and subscribe to our daily newsletter, the Baked In newsletter. Gentlemen, enjoy the rest of your weekend, and we'll check back in with you on Monday with Charlie Backtail and MSO Mondays with Dan Aarons. Meantime, enjoy the rest of your weekend. I'm Chad Dale saying good night. See you later.
Pat Joe needs to take some THCV. It's Skinny Joe.
Hey everyone, thanks for watching. If you want to learn more about the emerging industries that we cover, then leave a comment below and let us know who you want us to interview, the questions you want asked, and the information that you want to learn. We want to hear from you. As usual, click on that bell for all notifications to get the latest information. Share this video with your network, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel because we would not be here without you. Thanks for watching, everyone.